All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode 354 for the week of September 8th. Oh, gentlemen, I am glad to be back. Last week, I was not able to be here. I ran a half marathon and then ended up working chunks of the weekend. But that also means that I got a chance to play a couple games, and we'll have a chance to talk about some of those tonight as well in our rundown of both our main games that we've played this week and also our cleanup at the end as well. Joining me tonight, as always, Tao Master. How are you, Tao?
I'm doing well. Trying to fight off my allergies right now, so I'll have to mute probably a lot tonight.
Fair enough. I just thankfully the podcast did not start 5 minutes ago because I was sneezing like crazy. So excellent. GameLogIQ, no allergies for you, just plenty of cables and keeping everything running. So how are you, sir?
Actually, there are plenty of allergies for me. Fortunately, yeah. Fortunately, tonight's better. Last night was just like there are days when like my eyes water so bad that I think I mentioned this before, that like it actually impacts me like at work, like because I can only like be hands on keyboard for like 5 or 10 minutes at a time before I like have to clear my eyes. So last night was horrible. I had to take Benadryl when I went to bed, which I don't like doing because then that causes me to oversleep and blah 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 blah. But yeah, it worked out okay. I'm better tonight, but it's still, I'm a chronic allergy sufferer. So, but we'll soldier on.
Episode number 354, brought to you by Benadryl. For all your antihistamine needs, the Enough to Keep Going old man allergy podcast here. So, all right, GameLogIQ, you've got a game that I really want to hear your thoughts on because I played a little bit of it. But first, we're going to start with Tao. You've got a game that I have downloaded and it's sitting on my hard drive, but I haven't spent the time to dive into it yet. Age of Mythology Retold. So this is the remaster of Age of Mythology, the kind of it came off of the branch of Age of Empires back in the early aughts as a RTS game, and it looks like you're playing it. It launched on both on PC and on Xbox, but you're playing it on PC.
Yeah, majority on PC. I tried to play a little bit on my Xbox Series X. I actually downloaded it or installed it on there, and I just, because you're on a controller, obviously you got to hold down different buttons and to do certain things and hit other buttons. So I was like, I don't feel like doing that right now. Or
there will be no blasphemy on the show. Nobody should be playing an RTS. Like Halo Wars is the one exception that I think we've all universally agreed to make. But like in general, just consoles and RTSs. Brr.
What was the Middle Earth one? Right on the 360? Wasn't there another RTS? Anyhow, but talk to us about the beauty of mouse and keyboard and hotkeys and everything else that comes to you by playing an RTS on a keyboard.
Yeah, so yeah, I play the majority on PC. I'm just going through the campaign right now. I haven't even done any skirmishes yet, which you can kind of just set up, do against AI if you want. Which I probably might do this coming week because I'm kind of stuck on one of I think it's the third or fourth campaign right now. I'm trying to take over Troy, You start up, as the Greeks here. So you can, you could choose, well, not during the campaign, but if you do like a skirmish, you could choose between the Greeks, Egyptians, Norse, and Atlanteans. Um, Very historically accurate. But yeah, you start off as the Greeks. I don't know if you jump around or not, or if you're always the Greeks, but I never played the campaign in the original game, so I'm not sure on that part. But I'm trying to take over Troy right now, and it's just kicking my butt every time I get in there. Um, I start to build up, I have a little, you have a little army at first, and then you start, I'm trying to build up my army, and I just get attacked like almost immediately, like within 10 minutes. And I've tried, I think only twice so far. And each time I'm just getting taken out. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I might have to look up some guides or something, or some strategies, but, um, have some issues there. But just in general, this is remaster of the old Age of Mythology, excuse me. So it's, instead of sprite based, everything's 3D, 3D rendered. People, the characters, and the environments and stuff. So it looks really nice. I mean, even the old one looked fine. I mean, I kind of like the sprite based look, but
There was a remaster that came out in the mid-teens for this as well, but this is a full remodel and new engine for it as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I never noticed. I didn't realize they had done that first one. But yeah, I mean, it looks great. I got, I think, pretty much everything on high right now. I think that's the highest it can go. So I mean, it looks, all the effects and stuff look nice, and obviously controlling on a mouse and keyboard. Yeah, it's a lot it's a lot easier than doing it on a controller. But even with the controller, like even though I couldn't, figure out like kind of the minute things, I could do the basics. Here, pick a player or pick a character. Pick multiple characters, and do other stuff. So the one thing I did like about the controller is the sticks, and maybe I just have to change the settings on the mouse and keyboard, at least for the mouse. Moving around on the screen, the sticks were like, so as soon as you pushed it, it like zoomed, toward wherever you're looking at, and it seems a little slow. So I probably just have to change sensitivity or something. Um, and I know you can do like you hold down like I think it's like the right mouse, and then you can kind of zoom around the whole map, and that seemed a little bit too sensitive. There was like a good medium between the two on the controllers with the sticks, so that was the one nice thing about playing on a controller. But like I said, I'm pretty early on in the campaign right now. If you don't know what an RTS is, obviously you're just controlling. You start off with a little base, and then you kind of build it up. You need to get resources, you need to get wood, you need to get gold, you have to get food. Um, in this one, so it's a little bit different, I guess, from like Command and Conquer. I don't think you ever have to get food, but then as you do that, you can put down, an armory, and you can put down a little soldier camp, so you can start building your soldiers up and different. You have like with the Greeks, at least, I'm assuming like everybody has at least one kind of melee and shooting, attack person. I got archers, and I can do, I don't know what they're called in here, but and I forgot what they're called. But you have guys with just like big like swords and shield, or not swords and shield, but shields and staves. Is that what they're called? I can't remember. Spears. Sorry.
Mhm.
So you can you do that, and then you got since this is mythology, you can get like a minotaur, or I think a centaur for the Greeks. I think minotaur maybe is the Atlanteans or something, but you get all these different kind of creatures and stuff, and as you progress, as you level up, I guess you advance in the ages. So you start with age 1, and then age 2, like you can get like a Pegasus, which is basically like an advanced scout who can fly around the map, other than just being like on a regular horse. A guy on a horse kind of running around the map, so it's kind of nice. So it's a little bit harder to kill. You have to have like archers or something to kill that the Pegasus, and then you can get you can start to build up like Greek kind of, well, I guess Greek gods too, and demigods. So like you get like Hera and all these other characters that you can call in and help you in the quest. I think you do have one. I think it's Theseus. You do start off with, like, even though he might die during the battle, but he'll like get resurrected at some point, like after a certain amount of time. So that's kind of nice, I guess. I don't know if that happens. That can happen multiple times or not. I know I've had him. I guess it has, because I've totally lost everything now that I think about it from this last campaign. So at least he can be revived at least one time, or maybe it's a certain amount of time he can revive, but then just because they like destroyed my main base, I probably lost I lost the round. So, but I'm having a good time with it. I've always liked RTS games, so this is right up my alley. I liked Age of Empires. I kind of played it on and off here since it released, but this because the mythology, kind of aspect of it, I'm kind of enjoying a little bit more, just because you can kind of call upon these gods, and then you can get like god powers. You like get like Zeus's, lightning. At one point. I think as you progress through the ages, I think right now I can do as you advance in the age, it gives you a choice of like who you want to pick as far as a god, and I've picked one where basically like you put it on wherever you put it on the map is like a little circle that appears, and then like none of the enemies can fight, but you can't fight either. So I'm not really sure like how that's useful. I'm assuming at some point maybe it's more of like a retreat thing because I like when I do that, like they're not fighting, but I can't attack them either. So maybe it's like if you're getting killed, you can do that and just like run away or something. So, uh, but that's about the only thing I can think of. Because otherwise, it's since you can't attack. I thought maybe you can put that down and then you could just like lay waste to them. But no, like you can't attack either. So I thought that was kind of weird. But I guess that's a little overpowered for like a first age or second age power. But yeah, just other than that, having a lot of fun with it. Like I said,
So I don't remember how do the Greek heroes work? Are they like hero units like Warcraft 3, or are they ones that you're spawning and you can spawn more of them, or are they on a timer? How does that?
I think you could only spawn one of the Greek heroes at a time. Because I'm trying to think. Because there's besides the food, the gold, and the wood, there's I don't know what they call it. It's kind of like prayer, I guess, because there's like a temple you can build, and when you build that temple, that's when you can, summon the different Greek gods and stuff. Like I can summon the um, the centaurs and stuff, which is actually kind of nice because they're pretty powerful. But the centaurs I can do more than one, but like just the regular like demigods and gods, it seemed like I know I can do one at a time. So I don't know if there was some other cooldown, or they might cost so much that I just didn't have enough. Prayer power or whatever it's called to get more of those units. So yeah, so I'm still trying to mess around with that too. And I couldn't advance past the second age for some reason. I don't know what I was missing. I just noticed that the second time I was trying to do that one campaign level, and even from the previous campaigns, I never got past the second age, which I'm not sure how that is, but I'll have to check on that too. But yeah, having a lot of fun with it.
Nice. GameLogIQ, did you play this back in the day when it originally released?
Yeah, I did, and it's really been. I mean, I was very excited to hear about this when it was announced this year, because we didn't know this was coming. At least first, general announcements had been made. Just got blocked off this week. It's on my list of things to loop back through, but I wound up going after something else. A little delinquent on my purchases and catch up, so that I didn't really have an opportunity to pick this one up as well. But it's still wish listed on Steam, and I still intend to get back to it at some point.
All right. Any other thoughts, Tao, before we move on to the next game?
No, nothing right now. And like I got this through Game Pass, so that's how I'm playing. That's obviously how I installed it on the Xbox also. So just playing it through there.
Any I know this has been brushed up, touched up for 2024. Anything jump out at you as far as like graphic options, etc. On PC?
Nothing. No, I mean nothing out of the ordinary that you would see in anything else. So not that I noticed.
Okay, no. I mean, no ray tracing or anything.
I didn't see ray tracing in there. It's possible it was in there. I just missed it, but I don't think so. I don't remember seeing that.
And then then gameplay wise, the logic of the units, like, and I don't know if any effort went into like redesigning like AI or anything like that. I mean, is this still kind of Age of Empires? I mean, and you would be able to tell if it's Age of Empires if it's still just a matter of. Well, you may not be able to tell against the AI. You may only be able to see that in multiplayer. I mean, all of these games are rock, paper, scissors, and Age of Empires was notorious for being about. I mean, just much the same way StarCraft was being notorious about. It's just about building up to the point where you can do a tank rush. If you do the Star Wars, the Galactic Conquest or whatever variant or whatever, it was all just a matter of who could race to start building snowwalkers, and then it would just send a wave of snowwalkers, to whatever base, and it'd pretty much be over. But I mean, anything nuanced that you could pick up on from redesigns of the AI or anything like that?
No, not that I really noticed. You can with like the soldier, or I don't know about the soldiers, but like with the scouts and even your workers, you can kind of automatically set them to do, whatever you click on them to do, which is kind of nice. Like I don't have to, mouse over and each time like picking some, give them something to do. So there's also there's an auto a little switch there that you can auto enable them to just to do whatever they you want them to do. So that's actually kind of nice. I don't know if they had that in the old one or not. It's been a long time since I played it, so I can't remember like those little nuanced things like that. But and then there's a bunch of like, they probably have this. I mean, I'm sure they have this. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing this in Age of Empires, but like the different soldier, like the different formations you can put them in. So like you can put them in like in a box or like a triangle and like stuff like that. But there's also some other little, and I haven't like messed with them yet. Some other little like actions you can kind of give them, which is kind of like an auto thing. So it's actually kind of nice that you can do that. So
Great. Hero Down Under, thanks for stopping by. Good luck with everything at work today. Next up, GameLogIQ, you have been playing a little bit of the new Ubisoft game from a week ago here at this point with Star Wars Outlaws. I've had a chance to play just a little bit of it, but I really love the atmosphere. But I haven't gotten too far in it, maybe only the first hour or so. So how much time have you spent with it, and how are you feeling about it?
I put about 4 hours into it at this point, and I'm actually feeling remarkably good, better about it than I thought I would. And I'm playing on PlayStation 5. The game has, so as far as I can tell, as far as I've been exposed to, and I have been playing in performance mode, I haven't experienced any performance problems. I'm sure there are frame rate dips, here and there, maybe, but nothing like Star Wars Jedi Survivor. By any stretch of the imagination. And you have scenes here where you're in the ship, you're on a speeder bike, you have scenes where you are moving incredibly fast, and you could be rotating the camera around and things like that. And I just didn't see like the stickiness and the frame rate stutter and things like that that I would see in Jedi Survivor. And so for me, a person who cares about performance, even when I'm getting on a $500 console, because I still feel like that's your system's requirements are your system's requirements, and if you prefer games that play at 120 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or whatever on console, then that's your right to have that desire, and it's feasible for games to perform that way. Not every single one will, but it's fine if you prefer the games that do. Now what I will say is the textures that Massive Entertainment has applied to the wireframes leave a bit to be desired. They're a little rough around the edges. It does not quite have the graphical fidelity in terms of like the convergence of performance and texture mapping resolution that you would like. I haven't found that necessarily to be distracting. It is something that I notice. I hope that it doesn't improve. Jury's out on whether I have high hopes that it will, right, significantly. In terms of the Snowdrop engine, it's a weird thing where it feels like all the stuff that's in the background is doing what I expect of the Snowdrop engine in comparison to like the Division 2. Like one of the things that I noticed after a very long time of playing Division 2, I'd actually gone back to play the DLC, and I was like, and I hadn't finished the game, and so I was getting through the end game specifically so I could get into the DLC, and I was up like on a mall that had like 2 or 3 levels on it, and when you went up to the second level, there was all this debris on the floor, and I think I mentioned it on the show. I was like, holy crap! Like somebody somebody drew this, right? Somebody like programmed the engine to actually render all this detritus on the ground, like for no gameplay impacting reason other than for it to be atmospheric and in the environment, and the engine handles it. And it's really, to me, it was really remarkable in comparison, even something like a TLU 2, right? Just in terms of like all those things, bits and pieces that they had, that attention to detail. And so I feel like all that stuff, when it's in the background in this game, works fine. But then like the character texture maps and things that are like in your face, at least for the humans, like the aliens seem to look fine. But I can see where there's just not a certain level of refinement, on Kay and some of the other human characters, that I would have preferred. That being said, so that's the graphics and the performance side of it. That being said, gameplay is excellent with a couple rough edges. I feel combat in this game is really great. And like the animations are near TLU 2 levels. And when I say that, one of the things I love about melee combat in TLU 2, it is positionally, it is context sensitive to position, and relativity to other things in the background. So when Ellie goes in and does an attack on somebody, if they're near glass, she pushes them into the glass, right? If they are, fighting just a few weeks ago when I was playing TLU 2 again, in that level, after they are initially captured by the wolves, and she and Dina are breaking out, you're going through. I think you're in a school, and so there are like classrooms. I think they are, and like so the glass, like there are windows outside the class or whatever, and so the window comes down, like goes to the near top of the wall to like it stops halfway, like. So when you hit somebody or whatever, like Ellie pushes them onto the top of that like half wall, right? And so those things like just give off this cinematic flair to the combat, and this game is almost there, right? Kay's punches and attacks that she does are never like the same. She does some like very interesting like if you've ever seen like they do it sometimes in Kung Fu theater, right? like this jumping punch. So she'll do that every once in a while. When she uses like the little dog animal or whatever to like attack the person and the person's distracted, she'll run up, she'll knee him in the stomach.
Out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are done to give you again that cinematic flair right to the melee combat. Some of the gameplay and combat things that I don't like are lots of times it comes to the AI. Like the AI, when the visible sight line of the AI seems much further than it should be. Like it seems like there will be people on the other side of a compound from you with stuff in between them and you, but yet they'll still see you. But then when you were literally like 2 feet away in their periphery, when you would think somebody would catch a glance of something off to their side, they don't see you at all. So there's things like that, and they also get, they get sent into high alert states very easily. You will be completely distanced from, you'll be attacking a group of enemies. You'll be completely distanced from another group on the other side of a camp, and the other group on the other side of the camp goes to high alert. Now, they're not within audible range of what's going on. Like there's no alarm that's been set, but they'll still be on alert. But then other times, I was fighting a mission today where I was assaulting a pike camp, and the operations center is like up on a hill that you're trying to get to, and there's a separate interior gate to get so that they can raise a screen up on, a shield up on, and block that off. I'm engaged with a fight at the people right at the gate, and everybody from the gate into the operations center inner camp goes to high alert, but the people right outside me who are actually closer, like, don't. So it seems like maybe there's some like range gating or something that is area specific and not necessarily like range specific. So there are just some weird things that are going on like that. But I think one of the big things that sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if that zoning is set up that way, given like some of the stealth that goes on there, that is designed to make it a little more forgiving.
Could very well be. And I like the stealth sequences in this game. I think the big thing for me, and like Splinter Cell was the game that like psychologically scarred me and created my vast dislike of stealth games. But one of the marks of a stealth game that has to be there for me to be brought over the hump is that, and again I've mentioned it on the show before, you can't tripwire the detection and then have you be completely inept in combat, right? And like Splinter Cell, at least the first one was like that. It's like if you alert one guard, it's like you're done. Like there's nothing you can do. And I'm like, yeah, isn't the guy supposed to be a spy? You know, so and you have to kind of learn it, you know, in sort of the same way that you kind of had to learn what Outriders was about, just in terms of the way like the whole dynamic between push pull right between you and enemies was a little different than you're accustomed to in some other games. This is a game where even when you trigger them, you're going to get flooded, right, with enemies coming in at you, but you need to get in your head like that it's completely feasible and capable for you to take on like those waves of enemies. You also need to get in your head that, you know, you can there are certain ways that you can go about getting to a point, even though, like I said, their sight target lines are ridiculous. There are certain ways you can go about like getting out of detection and getting to cooldown. You just have to like figure that out and learn it. The game doesn't explain a ton of things to you, and I go back and forth between like when that aggravates me versus when I'm like, okay, where I'm like, I'm okay because I don't like the overhand holding. And so one thing about this game doesn't tell you that it has the high grass, what do I want to call it?
Like Assassin's Creed,
like Assassin's Creed or Horizon Zero Dawn, right?
Yep.
And that's another thing that I really like. I think another reason why I'm personally really liking this game is really very much Assassin's Creed in space, with some slight differences, right? But it's very much Assassin's Creed in space. Then again, that loops me back around to one of my other points of aggravation. Like I don't understand why when you were on a ledge or you're hanging off a ledge, like they don't have that mechanic where you can like reach up and grab somebody, right, and pull them off the ledge. I'm like, again, they get right up to the doorstep of like an Assassin's Creed, and then there's certain things that they don't do. Other mechanical things that I don't like is it has that thing where there are like objects in the game that you should be able to mantle that like from all the physics you see in the game make sense that you would be able to mantle, but you can't. So when you're in exterior environments, there will be rock outcroppings and stuff that you're like, I've seen her jump. Like she could definitely get a handhold onto that and mantle on top of it, but she can't. You can come down those rocks. So yeah, I mean, overall, and then I think close to the last thing I'll say is atmosphere, dialogue, characterization, voice acting. This is very much a Star Wars game. And it is more poignantly, it's a Star Wars game that to me is in the vein of a Rogue One or like it, you know, we've now been watching Star Wars for what, 50 years almost now, right?
Getting close. 46, 47 this year. Yeah.
Yeah. So like this and that property has traversed the whole arc, right, from the first trilogy, right, in the prequels and actually for a kid who grew up before the internet and like knew the Star Wars lore, right, about what was being written, and like we'd heard all the stories of like, oh, you know Ben Kenobi, fought, spoilers, Ben Kenobi fought, Darth Vader before he was Darth Vader, and he became Darth Vader because at the time the rumor was he had got thrown into a volcano, which as it turns out, right, is very close to what actually went down. But then like as much as and I'm a person who just like I don't have as much a problem with the prequels as lots of other people do. I think the postquels are absolutely horrible. But the point is that overall, the stringing together of that 9-movie arc, in a lot of ways, is really vastly disappointing for people who came up in a childhood of wonder of eventually like that to us was kind of what the MCU is, right, to kids now, right? This notion that there was going to be this big 9-movie epic, which had never been done before. And so these days, I'm down that vein of the stuff I love about Star Wars is the stuff that's not the Skywalker stuff. And quite frankly, I'm at the point now too where I'm kind of done with why do we need to see Jedis like all the time, right? This is a vast universe, and this loops me back to one thing that I don't like about the game. This is a vast universe, and you know we're constantly on Tatooine. Like, you know, there's like so many planets, and so on one hand, this game is good that it is going to other different locales, right? You're not like traipsing the same stuff. I think the planet you start on, Canto Blight, is actually the one from the second Postquill movie.
Yes, it's in the Rian Johnson one. Yep.
Yeah, and which is fine, right? Because you get to see that again. The one little noid that I don't like about this particular game is, so you're on Canto Blight. Again, you're supposed to be in this big universe. You're on Canto Blight going through this little village, and you feel like you're in like a corridor shooter. So I'm like, I don't know why we constantly do this. Why we constantly you're in this vast universe and we put you in this little tiny setting, right? But then like the next planet you go to actually like lifts off that a little bit because you're in a wide open space. You're on a speeder bike. You can traverse the planet. You're constantly going through like different biodomes. There are other people on speeder bikes transiting around, right? So now you're at a point where like the world feels lived in. One of the plot holes that I dislike in that characterization though is there's a couple points of like dialogue where if there feels like a plot hole, like a skip, you know, where like you're talking to one character that you just met and the character says, "Oh, well, somebody of your unique talents should you be well." I'm like, dude, we just met. You have no idea who I am. You don't know that I'm a thief and have all these skills. You see me in one gunfight, right? So I'm like, so he said that, and I was like, wait, what? So there's some minor things like that, but by and large, I'm having a good time. I don't think it's a perfect game. I don't think this is anything like Game of the Year material or anything like that. But I think for the people who it is suited for, I think they'll be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Like, I'm not nearly as far, but it is just the atmosphere really captures Star Wars well. Like, it is fun and enjoyable just to live in that space. And that goes to Hero's question of, is this, is it a recommend? As all Ubisoft games, right? Like, I think you can wait and get your discount. And the enjoyment that you're going to get from a Star Wars game is still going to be there. It's not like you need to jump in on day one. But if you're a Star Wars fan, I as somebody, I love what you're saying, because as an EU person growing up, like, the best stories were often the ones without Jedi, right? The Rogue Squadron stories, the ones that kind of take a different tack, and here we get that as well. Like, for as unique and good in terms of the story that the Jedi Survivor games are, this game carves out its own little space, and the Snowdrop engine really makes the Star Wars universe sing. So,
yeah, and here I'm the same way. I am a dyed in the wool Star Trek fan. The criticism I level at Star Wars is a thing that you'd never see. Like, you'd never see a Star Trek movie where they just completely like skip and skate completely by the whole political and organizational state of the universe, right? You're never going to see a Star Trek movie where there's a lack of understanding of what sovereign planets are, right? And who's in what empire. Like, that's the whole basis of Star Trek. And so, but I will say, like, even as a more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan, my feeling, back on your original question, do I recommend it? I mean, if you are the type of Star Wars person who's like what I talked about, like, you want to see what in the heck else is going on in this galaxy besides Jedi, and besides being on Coruscant, and besides being around Palpatine and all the political intrigue on the planet, right? I think this is a game that you will enjoy. And I will say, if you're a person who's looking around the landscape, there's a lot of discussion right now about like, oh my God, we're going to be so busy this holiday. There's so much coming out. And I'm like, I look at the release slate for me personally for the holiday season. I'm like, there's like 2 games that I care about. you know, and one of the ones that I care about is one nobody's talking about, which is Unknown 9 Awakening. So like for somebody like me who's fine right now, mostly playing games as a service stuff and sports games, this is something that's come along that's like you know, good for me. And so if you're not buried deep in games because things haven't been hitting like your drum beat, this might be a good thing for you. And like I said, if you want to see stuff outside like the Empire and Jedi and all that, I think it's a good thing. I think the other thing I'll mention is the similarities, right, that I see from this game, but also some of the frustrations. This is very much, again, Assassin's Creed in space. If you kind of like that kind of stuff, I think it's good. I think it's going to be awesome if you play this game and then you play Assassin's Creed. What is this? Is it Shadows?
Yes.
Yep. You play this game and then you play Assassin's Creed Shadows later this year. I think that'll be a very good like palette, you know. I will say there's also a lot of Far Cry, right? And I love the Far Cry series. So outpost takedowns are like a huge part of this game, and very much this in the same vein as Far Cry. You know, you're gonna have ones that you have to like replay, right, a couple times. You're gonna have ones that you complete half of the outpost takedown and half of the objectives, and then you die, and then you respawn with like those objectives complete, and you could finish out the rest. And it's gonna be a little bit more of that because in Far Cry, there's not as much of the stealth element as there is in this one. So, you know, if those games are in your wheelhouse, then, you know, that this one might do good for you.
Nice. Yes, I would agree with that. And Hero, I appreciate your love of lore as someone who listens to a number of audiobooks, both in the Star Trek and Star Wars series for that extended universe. So as GameLogIQ, you were talking about games on our you know, radar and games that we're excited about for the fall. This week was a big one for me with the release of Astro Bot. Astro Bot on PlayStation. This is Team Asobi out of the ashes of Japan Studios, the PlayStation studio that had been around for decades. And Astrobot you had Astro Rescue Mission, or no, Astro's Playroom, whichever, the one that came packed in with the PlayStation 5. Astro Bot originally started as a pack-in or a demo with PSVR, and then he had his own PSVR game, a nice platformer there, which when it was released, it was the game I had the most fun with that year. So I was definitely excited to check out and see what Astrobot is like, and it was a day one purchase for me. I have been playing a little bit of it. My son has been playing a whole lot more of it, so I have seen a lot of it and played a number of different levels. And so it's broken up into about 5 worlds, and in almost like a Mario Galaxy style, each of those worlds then has a number of levels, which are their own little kind of unique biosphere. And so that gives a real range of kind of level design. And there's a number of creative kind of add-ons that you get, you know, so the movement of the main character, you've got a jump, you've got a little jetpack that gives a hover. It shoots out some, you know, beams at the bottom, which can attack enemies. And you also have a punch. And those are kind of your basic skills. But then in some levels, you'll get boxing gloves, or you'll get monkey arms, or you'll get a little elephant that will suck up other blocks that allow you to make platforms as you go through. So it really is a creative platformer, and it's beautiful on PlayStation 5. And just like the demo in Astrobot Rescue Mission, or not Rescue Mission, but yeah, the PlayStation 5 one, where you're kind of going through a number of kind of PlayStation Museum-esques that you have, you know, your main goal is to rescue 300 little astrobots that have been scattered off your spaceship, which is a big PlayStation 5. And many of these, and you've seen these online, where they are taking off and they're little nods and homages to a variety of PlayStation characters over the years, or characters from other IPs that have been associated with PlayStation over time. So, and which is fun, right? It is a very dense game in terms of finding your little secrets. Like, you have many of the individual worlds that are really dense, and you're finding nooks and crannies, and then sometimes you get little challenge maps or challenge worlds that are very tight and short, sometimes less than a minute, but have kind of a certain challenge in terms of sometimes a game mechanic, sometimes a movement, sometimes some platforming that, it starts off relatively easy. It starts to ramp up. There's been a couple in the later levels where it's throwing a lot of enemies at you at the screen. And some of the boss fights start off pretty basic. The first world is a kind of a copy of a boss from Astro Bot Rescue Mission, but then you also get a number of new and unique ones that throw a lot of creative ideas. The thing I kept coming to is like, there's so much charm in this game. And Hero talked about it. Astro Bot is perfection. It really is. It is just a great time. If you enjoy platformers at all, Astro Bot is really, it is kind of the must-play game of the year for platforming fans. I think it, does it do anything super revolutionary? No. I think it takes a number of 3D platformer designs that have been, iterated on and, really have evolved over the time, whether it's with Mario or with a variety of other 3D platformers, and learns all those lessons and does a little something different with it. And so it's not a complete reimagining of a 3D platformer, but it is such a tight 3D platformer that if you have any enjoyment for platformers, it's a great game to dive into.
So that's the comparison point that I kind of wanted to hear a little bit about. So the notion that the game's perfection, which I'm not questioning, I'm not a platformer guy. I haven't played this game and won't. But I am curious, just from a landscape of gaming history, right, and IP and artistic and entertainment properties. How does this game compare to Super Mario Odyssey?
I think Odyssey is broader in scope. I think one of it's hard to call this perfection because it does what it's trying to do really well, right? I don't think it's trying to do something completely new, where Odyssey was kind of pushing at that in a number of different ways, right? I think the aspect in Odyssey where you're kind of seamlessly blending between third person and a 3D and a 2D in kind of going into a flat section of the world or getting smushed up against the side of something. Like, Astro Bot plays with scale, it plays with perspective, but it doesn't necessarily, at least from what I've seen, I don't feel like it's pushing in that kind of trying to expand the genre. I think it is refining the genre, right? I think that's the way I'm thinking of it. It's a very tight, refined platformer. And yes, I will let Hero be the one to take the hyperbole and say it's perfection. I would say that it is one of the most fun times I've had in quite a while. It's the most fun I've had on my PlayStation 5 since playing the, Astro Bot kind of little demo that came with it. It's also, as Hero just says here, like, it's a technical showpiece for anybody that's played the demo when they booted up their PlayStation 5 and kind of got a sense of what the DualSense could do in terms of sound and rumble and kind of proximity within that. Like, Team Asobi definitely continues that path and uses the DualSense in ways that you just don't see outside of first person or first party games. So it's doing a lot within the, I think the last time I've really felt like the DualSense was being used well was probably Gran Turismo 7. And yeah, and the it's got movement. At one point you're blowing into the microphone, it does a little bit of everything. But I think it also, as someone who has lived through many DS games where you have to blow into the microphone for something, right? Like, it does these things quickly, briefly, and never really lingers long on any one concept. And I think that's where it feels so tight, is that it's not overusing something. It's not coming back to it. I mean, as I was playing it, I kept thinking about, not about Odyssey, but thinking about Mario Wonder, where Mario Wonder tried some new stuff with a number of different power-ups, but oftentimes either the length of the level was long or that they kept the power-up going through multiple levels. And so here, these levels are shorter. They kind of toss the idea away in terms of, yep, you did this with your monkey arms and we're going to come back to it, the next world for one level, right? Like, yes, there are times when you have the same type of power up and ability, but you're never, at least at this point, you're not doing it level after level. And so it always is cleansing your palate and giving you a new experience, and never kind of sticking around too long to make it feel tired or drawn out.
I'm going to push back on you a little bit.
Please do.
In your initial agreement with Hero Down Under that the game's perfection, and I'm going to push back on Hero a little bit for feeling that he's hyperbolic. I think it is completely and entirely acceptable for the notion of perfection in a video game or any product to be one that puts all the pieces together in a way that harmonizes and makes you feel good. I mean, the perfection of a video game is you sitting down to play a video game and walking away from it and feeling great about your experience. Like, a lot of emphasis gets put on today about, oh, well, it did something new. Oh, well, is that really innovative? Well, it's not really innovative. Well, like, those things have artistic significance, but in terms of direct delivery to the gamer, to me, it's all about what I constantly talk about: ROI, entertainment ROI. Do you get, what is the factorial of fun you get out of the game for the time that you put into it? And when that's a 1-to-1 ratio or a greater than 1-to-1 ratio, that is approaching perfection or better. I mean, and it's great that things push the envelope, and I like that analogy you made to Super Mario. But I mean, just as you said with I think did you say Super Mario Wonder? I think,
yes,
or Mario, Super Mario. Like, it's absolutely true also that games can be innovative and push envelopes, and then feel like they're not sticking the landing, as well as something that's safe. And this is true across lots of technical endeavors. The iPhone frequently doesn't push any new boundaries, right? But it is often be considered, right, perfection in a phone. When you put that phone in your hand, feels good in the hand, does all the things well, isn't necessarily doing them first, but does it in a refined way that makes you feel great, right, about that phone ownership experience. And I'm not saying that for me the iPhone is perfect. That's very subjective to the user. But yeah. So I think that's a great notion and good to hear.
Yeah, no, I think it's splitting hairs to some degree, right? Like, a game can be an amazing, fun experience. It can be close to perfect, but it doesn't have to be revolutionary in that as well, right? It can just be a really tight, well-designed, as Hero's saying here, right? It's just extremely, excellently crafted. So, yeah, I think Team Asobi, I would put them up there with Nintendo EAD in terms of their platforming chops, and they really do a good job here. So, I'm looking forward to playing more, but I'm not looking to rush through it because I'm just enjoying my time. And if I miss, the nice thing about it is it's very collector friendly in terms of, it tells you how many bots are in each level. And if you go back to a level that you beat, you'll get a little bird that goes along with you and kind of has a sonar that gives you some direction of where a bot is that you missed. And so it gives you an incentive to come back to some of those levels. But it's also like I'm enjoying looking around in those levels, slowing down in those levels, and looking for where the things are hidden, because they use the depth and perspective of the landscape so well, just like they did in the VR aspect, to find a little nook and cranny and hide something there. Rarely are you exploring something and don't get some type of reward for it. And so it's very, very well done. And I was hoping I would be glad to hear what Swiss his take on it is, as he talked about in our Discord. His kids were very excited about this, and it's a game that is extremely family friendly, but also if you want that challenge of going to try to collect everything, there are some really tight platforming spots as well. All right, so we've hit a couple big name releases over the course of the past week or two here. So let's get into our news story. One of our top, I think the top news story for the week is probably the fact that one of the big name releases from 2 weeks ago, Concord, was announced that it was going offline on the 6th and is now offline. We talked about this a little bit on our Discord. There's been plenty of discourse about it over the course of the week in any gaming channel that you listen to or read. I think that I don't know that I have a whole lot new to say about it that hasn't been said, but I think the fact that this was a first party game, came out, and in 2 weeks is offline, right? I think that there is, as a product, as a genre in the hero shooter space, like both as a publisher and a developer, like where things, the postmortem of this will be very interesting to see kind of where things went off the rails, or how much was what the final product was close to what their vision of it was, and how much of it was kind of looking at an industry and trying to hit a target based on what you thought sold within a genre. And I think that's that's a big gamble, especially as things shift, or that a genre can get saturated, and finding and pulling people away from, especially an online multiplayer team-based shooter where you need 10 people. It becomes a challenge, as Concord found out. So thoughts here, gentlemen, on Concord going offline?
I think I was just a little surprised that they totally took it offline. Like, I guess kind of surprised and not surprised. Like, yeah, okay, that was doing bad, so we're gonna take it offline. But I didn't think it would be like this soon, like like you said, a couple weeks after release. And that's pretty much it. It was just kind of weird that they would just like full stop, like, all right, we're just gonna totally take it down, and at least not leave it up to I'm sure there's some people that liked it out there. I mean, obviously not a lot, enough to keep it going, but I just thought it was kind of weird that it would go down like that. But I mean, maybe it'll come back. I mean, I don't know if they can, because what was it, $40, right?
As a $40 release. Yep.
Plus, had the regular
and
of a live service game. So,
but it didn't really have a battle pass with it. I think I commend them for the kind of economic model that they were going after, of give me a full-fledged game, give it, whether it's a box copy or a download, but it's not something that was going to try to milk you out of purchasing characters for $10 each. Or, we've talked about a variety of free-to-play games over the years here in terms of their different economic models. But it also makes the barrier to entry a little higher in that case as well. I wondered if this would have been like Sony's first play in trying to salvage something, would have been to throw it up on PlayStation Plus and make it free to PlayStation Plus. Granted, anybody on PlayStation that would want to play it would need PlayStation Plus anyways to be able to play online. So it's not drastically different than making it free to play. But it does make me wonder, like, what was the cost of sustaining it? The cost of keeping the servers up, but also the cost of the whole kind of narrative approach that they were taking of produced motion captured narrative, footage, CGI footage, uh, is not cheap to produce. And so if that was something that they had only a couple of those in the bag and we're going to need to sink more money into, if it wasn't finding an audience, to what degree was Sony's, where was their kind of, going back to GameLogic's ROI, like, where was their threshold for that? And what would, and that's probably where they looked at charts and they, looked at trend lines. And I'll be surprised if it comes back. Like it pushing it back out as a free-to-play game, you need a bigger studio to keep that up and running, right? A development, like sustaining a live service game takes a lot of ongoing, because we've seen that as well, where live service games struggle if they're not being continually supported. And not everything can have the plethora of studios of Activision Call of Duty or Epic Games with Fortnite in order to keep the content spigot just flowing. So, GameLogic, any thoughts here? Otherwise, we can move on to the next story.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's familiar with either this show or other shows I've been on, I'm not surprised at all. I started saying on August 29th. I'd done a couple of assessments. I'd done one where I estimated the cost of the game to Sony post-acquisition versus what they had spent on the game prior to acquisition, which would have been an expense, which is only applicable in the fiscal year for that earnings statement, and then therefore would have been taken into account with regards to net profits, and then you would have just started the next year over, so there would have been no lingering cost, depreciation, capital investment, etc. So I started building this case before even August 29th that said, I don't know that this is the big deal that people think it is. This is a sub $100 million game. I estimated around the cost of $75 million to Sony. And then afterwards, I said, if Sony cancels this and writes this down now and stops the bleeding and hemorrhaging, they can take it as a sunk cost, write it off on taxes, not owe any depreciation, and the only thing that they owe on is the capital investment, which they've only been investing for a year. Because the studio was a year, maybe just over a year and a half. I can't remember exactly, but I mean they acquired Firewalk in 2023, so actually it was just about a year. So they've acquired Firewalk in 2023, games out in 2024. With games as a service or hosted services or anything like that, you like the depreciation calculations are different. So my whole point was, I started talking about this before, at the tail end of the last month, that the prudent thing was to cancel Concord now, right? I further went on to say you should also cancel Marathon, because I think Marathon's going to have the exact same problem. I go back to our show 2 weeks ago where I said, I think we in the gaming community have miscalculated our impression of how big a deal we think hero shooters are. In reality, remember I said there's 4 that are a big deal. I think extraction shooters have even less of a hit mark, right? There's a reason Escape from Tarkov hasn't blown up. And one of those reasons is that that game is very much kind of in the Souls kind of formulation in terms of those games are brutal. They're unforgiving. And they're just, I don't think they're going to achieve widespread mass appeal. So, like I said, I mean, I would have killed Concord. I would kill Marathon. I would put, my joke is I would put Jade Raymond in a locked room and have her watch Concord post-game film, and say, everything that you can think that this game did wrong, you need to get right. Because Fair Games has a lot of similarities to Concord. So this wasn't surprising me at all. I actually kind of ran a victory lap on Twitter and said, I told you so, when the news hit. It's sad. It's unfortunate, but...
No, I think your analysis is spot on in terms of its investment and where they're at. And yes, I think having you take a victory lap is well earned in your analysis of this. So let's go ahead and move on. GameLogic, you've got the next story here as we talk a little bit in terms of we move off of Game Studios and Concord into some of the technology around chips and chipsets.
Yeah. So first of all, I meant to mention at the top of the show, I'm nervous tonight because I'm actually not locally recording. Just a bit of a quick studio side. Because we're on the upgraded tier service of StreamYard now. So this is the first time I'm just letting StreamYard record in the background and not doing it locally myself. But on another technology note, here I put this in the news story.
I love the fact that you wait an hour to tell us that, just in case, like, maybe it crashed at some point, but let's just keep going.
Just in case those of you audio listeners are out there and hear some garbling or something that you're not accustomed to hearing, that's because there's been a shift in how this episode's being produced, and we'll see how it goes. On another technology note, I put this in here because I wasn't really super impressed with a lot of news stories that went around the news cycle at this time. And I also thought this was very prevalent because we see what's going on with Intel with the 13,900, 14,900 chips and their overvoltaging problem. Because this is a thing that should actually help with technology avenues to go down. There are lots of people who feel like we're hitting the theoretical limit of how much more power and efficiency that we're going to get out of these chips. Those who have been around the space, for decades, we went through the gigahertz wars, the clock cycle wars. Then we went into the thread wars, which is where we are now. I mean, in general, most users don't need 16 threads, but it's available. So this story, anyway, over on TechSpot by Nomad76, coalition formed to accelerate the use of glass substrates for advanced chips and chiplets. ENR Engineering Corp hosted an event on August 28th, 2024 in Taipei, Taiwan, where they launched the eCore system. This initiative, a combination of ENR and Glass Core, inspired by the sound of ecosystem, led to the establishment of the Glass Substrate Supplier eCore System Alliance. The alliance aims to combine expertise to promote comprehensive solutions, providing equipment and materials for next-generation advanced packaging with glass substrates to both domestic and international customers. So, not going to go into all the technobabble about that. Members of the alliance include, just trying to see if there's any names here, Skytech, which is it's weird because I didn't think they made components, and they're known for being a system configurator, and they sell their gaming boxes on Amazon. Nobody here that really kind of sticks out on the consumer plane. But the whole point of this is that to address some of the problems that I mentioned before, and also to look at environmental impacts, coming up with things that are better for using for PCBs and motherboards than some of the materials that we use now, which prove difficult in terms of disposing of them properly. There's been a lot of effort going into figuring out, like, how do we come up with materials that can handle more voltage. And so glass substrates is one option that people have been looking at. Compared to the widespread use of copper foil substrates, glass substrates offer higher wiring density and better signal performance. Additionally, glass provides extremely high flatness and can withstand high temperatures and voltages, making it an ideal replacement for a traditional substrate. So the impacts of using these in motherboards, PCBs might allow you to pump more voltage into it, can help with greater wiring density, which means we may be able to see things like a lot more parallelization, increasing of bus bit width, and things like that. So, hopefully this thing will go somewhere. We definitely need to be pushing for new technologies. A telltale sign of it is, I sometimes get frustrated with this as a PC builder, we're still on ATX. We have literally talked for 2 decades about moving on to some form factor that's more suitable than ATX, and we have yet to give it up. We've done things like we've come up with dual chamber cases now, right? And we had a point where we were mounting the power supply on the top of the case, right, and flipping the motherboard upside down. Like, we've done all types of crazy gymnastics to do something other than maybe just moving on to a different form factor. Like, in that, I point that out as an example to just flower that down around the rest of everything that's packed inside a PC case to show that, like, we give up technologies, like, very reluctantly. But yay, verily, we're approaching a point where there are things that we need to do different. So I'm glad to see that this is picking up speed and going somewhere. Hopefully.
Nice. Thanks for calling that one out. Yeah. Let's move on to you've got the next news story here around the Famitsu's listing of the Japanese charts for the week.
Yep. So this news story over on Nintendo Life. Japanese charts. MEO bags a top 5 spot in a week of new releases. Gundam Breaker 4 towers overall. This news story by Jim Norman. Sorry, I've got this on my tiniest screen.
Nope. We've got Gundam Breaker. We've got Umasumi Pretty Derby. We got Gundam Breaker for both Switch and PlayStation 5. Hitting number 1 and number 3. And then we got Visions of Mana at number 4. But Visions of Mana for PlayStation 4 also comes up as number 9. So looking at this, to me, the big ones seem Gundam Breaker 4 at 84,000 units. If you combine, let's push that even higher because you get PlayStation 4 in there too, right? So 97,000 units in terms of Gundam Breaker across SKUs, and Visions of Mana pushes around 40,000 across SKUs as well. So Visions of Mana, this is an interesting one too. I'll let you talk more about it, but Visions of Mana hitting kind of in the top 10 here. We also had the news story at the end of last week's news cycle of NetEase shutting down the developer, laying off many of the people at the Visions of Mana studio, which is UK Studios. So, but what stood out to you? You pulled this story. What highlights do you want to talk about here?
So, I mean, as one would suspect, people in Japan, you put out a game about big robots and it tends to sell well. So there's that, good on them. As you mentioned, like the Visions of Mana, unfortunately, it's a sad note, but at least, if the studio has to go out, at least the last thing that they did sold well. I was actually very surprised and happy to see that the game I was playing, Star Wars Outlaws, sold well in Japan and made the chart. And that's about it that really stood out. One of the reasons I pulled this is because I've gone on and mentioned more than one time about how this whole notion that growth is a problem, and every company needs to put their game like on every other platform, which I don't think is the case. What I think is the case is that Western developers in particular need to start learning how to make games that are culturally relevant to other regions. And I've talked about the numbers of gamers that there are in the world, and the biggest region is Asia. And so if you're going to make inroads and you're going to achieve growth, you've got to do something about how do you attract gamers in Asia. And so I think it's important to start pulling this chart in when it does cross our windshield, the same way that we do the UK charts, just to kind of get some telemetry around how the gaming industry works globally and not just always only talk about the NPD numbers.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Thank you. All right, let's hit our last news story for the week. A couple months ago, we had the announcement that a Splitgate sequel was coming out. Splitgate was the first-person shooter, kind of competitive Halo movement-like, but with portals. And you've got a news story here about some of the challenges that the studio is facing keeping the original Splitgate up and going.
Yeah, so this news story over on Game Developer by Chris Kerr. We were just fighting to keep the lights on. 1047 Games founder on ditching Splitgate to create a scalable sequel. In many respects, portal-infused shooter Splitgate was an irrefutable success. The freemium title surpassed 13 million downloads when it was still in open beta and delivered an all-time peak of around 68,000 concurrent players on Steam roughly 3 years ago. As interest in the project surged, developer 1047 Games secured over $100 million in funding via an investment that valued the studio at $1.5 billion. Just in case you were wondering, that is a pretty doggone good high valuation for a fledgling studio. We have studios who have decades of experience that sell for millions of dollars. The
Well,
company,
Sony bought Bungie for single-digit billions. So
yep. The company openly admitted that Splitgate achieved a level of success that we could not have anticipated, and that few indie games are fortunate to reach. So, the reason I pulled this was, number one, another podcast that I was on. I think they actually spoke to the developers at Gamescom. There were a lot of things that are kind of in this article that I felt were what was going on when they made the decision to stop work on the original Splitgate and go on to 2. And this is really a matter of code being scalable, and code bases being scalable, and understanding when where you want to get to isn't supported by the architectural foundation of the thing that you've created, where you can see the boundaries and the limits, and you can see one of the articles that I was reading this weekend talked about how in IT we spend for every 2 hours that we spend on maintenance, we spend 1 hour on innovation, right? That we're constantly cycling the sweat pumps to fast to make the thing go, leaving ourselves less and less time to actually be moving the ball forward. One of the projects that used to be in my portfolio now is not in my portfolio. We had to kind of do a major swerve of the senior staff in order to get on the technical debt problem, because the senior staff was occupied with too much of their time just making the thing go and no time on solving the technical debt problem. And so we had a conversation about this last week, a couple weeks ago on the Gaming Circle podcast. A lot of the things that I articulated, were probably the things that they were fighting. Were corroborated by the team that had interviewed them and things that are in this article. So I thought it was pertinent to pull it out and put it out there for people to go off and read. It's an interesting perspective and insight into software development, software engineering. That there is such a thing as building a box, and that box you've wired so tight that you can only code yourself into a corner, and then you just can't get out of it. So I thought it was good to put out.
yeah, no, I think so too. I think, as a longtime Destiny player, that's always been one of the big knocks on the engine within Destiny. One of the reasons they moved from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 was to get rid of some of that legacy pieces. But even in Destiny 2, there's stories out there of it taking, a day for updates to cycle through. So, and Game Developer I'm glad you pulled something from there. I've been reading more and more from there. There's a little more in depth that's coming out of Game Developer. It's not just kind of grabbing headlines. It's trying to, with the challenges that the acquisition of GameIndustry.biz is facing. Game Developer is definitely one of those that, to me, is diving a little deeper into the industry than simply just kind of grabbing headlines and trying to get page views. So thanks for grabbing it there. All right, gentlemen, we're going to round the corner into our third and final segment here with our rundown. We've got about 17, 20 minutes or so. So let's make our way through. Tao, second week of Black Ops 6 beta. How's it going for you?
Yep. So this was the open beta that started this past weekend, or this weekend, I should say. Open for everybody. I think that's going to end noon Central tomorrow on Monday. So get your kills in while you still can. I'll be doing that as soon as I get off this podcast, because probably won't have time tomorrow, unfortunately, since I'll be at work. But yeah, so they added a couple of new maps. They added actually another new mode. Well, I shouldn't say new mode. There's another mosh pit, kind of a jumble of modes, but they're all on smaller maps. So I haven't hit that yet. I might give it a try just because I kind of don't like the smaller maps most of the time, but I might just kind of try it out and see how they are. Looks like they have some new modes in there too. Kill confirmed, which they didn't have before. Well, maybe they did. Actually, I think they added that at the tail end of last week's beta, and then now they're continuing on. But it looks like they'll have something called face-off kill order. So kill order was the high value target mode where each team has a high value target, And I think you get more points as if you kill that, if you take that person out. So, and then it just goes to a random person like every time that person dies. So, and then they also have gunfight, which is just 2v2. So that should be interesting. So I've in that mode, and then the one new map was called Babylon. I thought there was two. I guess it's only one. It's kind of that one is fairly small, but I'm kind of surprised they had it in the regular core mosh pit modes, which is like domination, hard points, and then just regular team deathmatch. It's kind of just like a center building, and then there's kind of corridors kind of all around it. So it was kind of weird that they put that in there, but it's actually not too bad. It's still probably that, even though it's kind of a smaller map, there are some good sniper lanes in there, so which I took advantage of when I was playing this past weekend. So it was pretty fun. And then last week's beta they had capped at 20 level 20, and then they upped it 10 more levels to level 30. So you can go up to 30. Unlock some special rewards for going in the beta, some skins and for your characters and for your guns. I think some like emblems and stuff like that. That's stuff you can kind of customize during the game. But still having good time with it. I'm still going to be playing it. Like I said, I played it after the podcast tonight, and definitely going to be jumping on this. I would have bought it anyways, even if it was coming to Games Pass. So, like I said, I've always liked the Black Ops series, so I'll be getting this for sure when it comes out in October. I think end of October, I believe it comes out 2nd or something like that. So
sounds about right. Are
yeah.
you buying the deluxe pre-order that gives you early access? I think they're doing something along the lines of what they did with Starfield as well, right? Where you can buy the upgrade even if you're getting it through Game Pass.
Yeah, nah, probably not. I'll probably just wait on this one. It's not a super big deal like for Starfield. I think I can wait. So there's other CODs I can play. So it's not not like Starfield. So
nice. Yeah, it sounds, everything that I've heard has been pretty positive about the beta. So it's good to hear from you.
Yeah.
All right, the next game, I'll just do a quick hit here. It was announced back in the middle of August or so that First Star Games, the Retro Bowl creators, had partnered with the NFL and the NFLPA to create an NFL Retro Bowl that is unfortunately only exclusively on Apple Arcade at this point. So if you have an Apple Arcade subscription, you can play NFL Retro Bowl, which I do, and I have played it, and it's Retro Bowl. Like it is a nice skin. It has your, it has all your NFL teams and players. But it doesn't. The gameplay itself is still exactly Retro Bowl, so it doesn't do anything different. Granted, I love Retro Bowl. I'll play a lot of it. One of the things that it does make a little difference is you can do a quick start, which gives you only a selection of players from your team that you choose, or that you can kind of go in and look at the whole team roster and then based on salary cap, pick some players. So, which I've done both ways, that it gives you a little more of a balanced team, or when you do the quick start going in, but I like going in and choosing your players that you may not take the highest, you may take your backup quarterback because it's going to have a lower salary cap rather than the star quarterback that's got a $40 to $50 million salary cap hit. And so there's definitely some ways to play with that in terms of building your roster. But again, the salary cap works just like it did within Retro Bowl itself. So that's only on Apple Arcade. Hopefully it is one of those where after a year of being exclusive on Apple Arcade, it might find a release elsewhere as well. GameLogIQ, you have gone back to Red Dead Redemption, but on the PC this time? Or has it frequently been on the PC?
It has frequently been on the PC. So I've played it on PC, quite a bit. I mean, I've probably since the DLSS patch, which happened, I don't know, probably like a few years ago, I've probably pretty much only played it on PC. Just the whole, aiming in third person with twin sticks, I just find not as great as mouse and keyboard. Trying to figure out a way to not sound too insulting. By the way,
appreciate the accuracy of a mouse in third-person shooting. I can appreciate that.
By the way, Star Wars Outlaws doesn't bother me. Like, it is perfectly tuned and calibrated to like what my personal preference. I haven't needed to touch it at all. Works really well, and K is surprisingly accurate in that game. But yeah, went back to Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC. Played. I guess I'm just kind of like a career side mission player. I played the mission with the with the Reverend, the wayward Reverend, who has a gambling problem, and so rescued him and brought him back to camp. Took down what is that? I can't remember. Something that starts with the C. The gang that they can't stand.
I can think of who you're referencing because they start the story off as like their rival. Right. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and I just saw it the other night, and now I'm brain dumping. Had captured one of their gang members, and he led us back to their camp. So took the camp on. Had some opportunities to use a lot of different weapons. Got a new horse. All the standard things that you like in Red Dead Redemption 2, and have the breadth of activities. I apologize as I talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. It draws me back to another comparison to Star Wars Outlaws. Red Dead Redemption 2, I like, when you hit that point in the game where you have a lot of different weapon choices, throwing knives, the knife, bow and arrow, your carbine, a shotgun, and your pistol, right? And you can carry all of them on your horse pack, right, and make available use of them. I will say in Star Wars Outlaws, one of the other things that I like about that game is I haven't necessarily gotten to the point where you have a plethora of weapons, but you do have a lot of options, right, on how you want to approach. You can send necks, you can go to fisticuffs with a person, you can shoot a person, you can pick up another weapon, like the stormtrooper style kind of blaster rifles. You can chuck grenades, so you get a lot of options in that game too, really early on too. I would also say, but yeah, I've been having fun with Red Dead Redemption 2, playing it on PC, playing it on a 34-inch ultra wide display, HDR, IPS.
That
so
looks real nice.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're not even a comparison, but talking about Red Dead Redemption and Star Wars Outlaws in the same sentence, both of those are worlds that you can appreciate just kind of being in. Yep. GameLogIQ, stay on the mic here, and you are also dipping back in with World of Warships, a game that kind of finds its way into your frequent cycle.
Yeah, so I went back to this maybe a month or so ago, and it's been staying in the rotation. It's pretty much in steady rotation now, along with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So been working on, been rotating around right on the different ships and the different tech trees. I've hit up my British tech tree and my Japanese fleet, and working now with the Pan Asian ships and the European ships, which are primarily a lot of ships that were built like by Italy or Germany, but then got sold to like Sweden or some other country. So they're kind of weird one-offs that got added to the game. A weird thing that's been going on in the game dynamic, and maybe it's the 9-year anniversary, because I guess with the 9-year anniversary, I think they gave away like a tier 6 ship to I don't know, to subscribers or something like that. I'm not sure where mine is in my inventory, but at any rate, there were a lot more people online this weekend than I have previously seen. A lot of people available, are playing at peak times. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. You have a full human team when you're playing co-op, and what that means is, particularly if you're playing a battleship, you have lots of people in cruisers and destroyers streaking ahead and getting all the kills. So later this weekend, I flipped to not to cheese, but just because it was just kind of in my natural path and rotation. I also started mixing in destroyers and cruisers. And had some really good matches. Won a lot of random battles. this weekend, which typically I'm not often on the winning team when you're fighting humans. So yeah, having some good time with it. Pan agents are really giving me a hard problem. They have these things called deep draft torpedoes. And so those torpedoes are only usable against cruisers, battleships, and aircraft carriers. They don't provide as much. They don't give them as much early warning. They see them in the water, very late. But their timing is just a little different than regular torpedoes. They're devastating when they do hit. But I'm having some problems coming to grips with those. So new kind of weapon category and class that I haven't really spent a lot of time working with. So it's new, neat. Having a good time with it.
I appreciate the breakdown of your naval vessels and torpedoes, as I have spent as I've been training for a marathon or a half marathon here. I've spent a lot of time listening to Tom Clancy novels on audiobook. So always diving into the techno aspects of naval. So excellent. Tao, you are back to another game that has been in your rotation before as well.
Actually, this is the first
This
time
one
I
is
played
new.
this.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
this
thought
was
it
new for
looked
me.
familiar. It looked
Yeah, I
like
think
something else. So
yeah, I think we talked about it. I might have talked about it at one point during one of the Summerfests or whatnot. This is called Arena, and speaking of extraction shooters, this is called Arena Breakout Infinite, which is very much like Escape from Tarkov, which I've never played personally, but I've seen videos of it, people playing it. Um, this might have a storyline to it, like the tutorial mission, like
sounds really confident there.
yeah, well, that's a little weird. So the tutorial mission you do at the beginning, like you just go right into it as soon as you start the game up. Like there's no, you don't go to no menu or anything like that. They just send you into tutorial, and it's kind of like a storyline that you're kind of going through as you're going through with your squad, and it's just an AI squad that you're with. You kind of go through this little farm, kind of like farmhouse, and everything, and then. You start the game once you finish that, and obviously it's just doing the regulatory stuff. How to move, how to search people like you do in Tarkov when you down them and you get their loot. But yeah, basically it's just an extraction shooter. So once you get past that part, though, then you just go into the normal. Um, you pick you only have one stage unlocked. It's like I guess easy stage. I played a couple of games in those, and I actually was partnered up. And you can flip this off. I was partnered up automatically with somebody, so it was just the two of us that went in there. And you can pick. I think there's only two maps: the farmyard, which is the same one you did in the tutorial, and then there's another one like a valley or something like that. I think it was called. I only did the farmyard so far. The couple times I played actual games. So we went in there. We cleared out just like the AI guys, and we extracted. So, and I did that a couple times. So it was like super easy. So I'm assuming, I don't know if there's a lot more actually regular people in those first couple games that I played. We didn't, as far as I could tell, there was no other like actual players that I killed. It was only the AI people, AI characters, NPCs. So it was pretty easy. I mean, we kind of just went through it and got out of there. So I was like, oh, cool. But I'm sure they're gonna throw us into the deep end. I'm sure in the next like game or two, and I'll have like real people going through there, and probably all geared up, and I'm just gonna have like a little vest, and that's about it. But I found some decent weapons and stuff that I was able to bring back to my inventory. Is like you have like your big inventory when you get back into your. There's no, I don't want to say house, but there's like no like base or anything. It's just like you come back to like an inventory screen basically, and then you can sell stuff. You find little trinkets and whatnot, like all extraction shooters. And that's how you kind of build up your money, so you can customize the guns that you get, and put scopes and stocks and all that other stuff that you can normally do. So it's like I said, I never played Tarkov, and this is free to play. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. So it's fine for now, but I'm sure like if I, start getting to these games where there's like, like I said, people geared up, I might, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll drop it. Then, but it was fun for now.
So one question I have is, how are you playing this game? Because I don't see it as being available on Steam.
That was my question. Like, did you
No, yeah.
code? Did you do Twitch drop? Because yeah.
Yeah, you can get it straight from their site right now. Yeah, because right now on Steam it says coming soon, I believe. It's not officially released on Steam yet, and I think right now that's kind of like the what do they call it? Early access right now, so it's not officially out yet. But yeah, that's how I'm playing it. Yeah,
Are you
I mean,
playing with a group or with a friend, or playing solo?
yeah, just solo right now, or just whatever randoms they throw at me when I jump in there. So like when I went in there, obviously I'm only level 1, and so was the other guy that came in. So they just that was kind of nice. Like at least initially they give you the same kind of level, that you start off with. But it's a fairly new game, so I'm sure there's a lot of new people jumping on right now.
Now, when he came in, was he on your team or was he an enemy?
No, he was on my team. Yeah, we went in as a team,
Okay,
a duo. Yeah,
and then it's interesting that you said so there is PVE in the game.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. When I was watching other videos of it, that's when I saw there's actually real people in there too. So just not that I saw in the couple of games I've played so far.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I looked at Tarkov. I have a copy of Tarkov. I just don't play it. I believe the way Tarkov works is it has PVE, but there's no, like, PVE is like basically practice mode. Like there's no rewards or progression to be gained, and if it is, it's like really anemic. I mean, to really like progress and level up and get good gear and stuff, you have to go into the PvP mode. I'm pretty sure. I think.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
curious. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, it's just like the other extractions where it's PVE versus PvP. So they have a little bit of everything in there. So if you want to, you can just go for those AI guys and extract out. Which the only other game I played like that was called Vigor, and that was, I think it's on everything, but I played it on the Switch. It was the same thing. It's just an extraction. You go in there and you take people out, or you take the AI people out. And that one, I don't know, it was just because of the Switch, but I did really good on that game. Like I played a bunch of games on that one, like for a few weeks, maybe even about a month or so. I was playing, but so I don't know. But this is more realistic. It's like military guys. So obviously, you got like better weapons, and that one was kind of more. It was just like a regular like shotgun you had, or like a rifle and stuff. But here is obviously you got military weapons, so you got SMGs and ARs and stuff like that. So snipers. So we'll see how it goes as I keep playing.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear more about it. So that is going to wrap us up more or less. I thought I would get a chance to talk about NBA 2K25, but I really haven't had too much time to play it yet, so it'll be mainly on my playlist for next week. Spent a lot of time in front of Astro Bot this week, as we talked about. One of the things on 2K25, the shot meter is different. And so even just the little bit that I played, I spent most of the time in just practice to try to figure out the shot meter, which is last year it was tweaked a little bit in terms of its timing, but still kind of worked the traditional way in terms of getting it to the, you had that kind of bar that was filling as you go to your top. Here, that's an actual arrow that kind of goes up. And as I've been reading about it online, it's designed so that you're learning to release at the top of your animation, more so than trying to time it with the bar, and so it becomes more animation focused, which is different if you're used to playing the other way. If you're used to shutting off the bar, shutting off the meter and just timing it on your animation, if you're a high level, it seems like it is easier to pick up. But so yeah, I'll have more to talk about there with NBA 2K25 next week. Tao, what are you looking forward to this week in terms of what's on your list?
Yeah, I'll probably keep going with Age of Mythology, and then probably trying to get going more into the Arena Breakout also on PC.
Nice. And GameLogIQ, what's looking into your rotation for the coming week?
When we get off, I'll be hitting up World of Warships. I'm not sure what I'm going to get into later in the week. I do want to quickly talk about new releases this week that might interest people. So we got Space Marine 2 coming. I Am Your Beast, which is a game that showed, I think, at the Indie Game Fest.
It was during Summer Game Fest that you could do a demo of. Yes, okay. And you played the demo of it, I believe.
I didn't play the demo, but I was very impressed by just the trailer that I saw. It's kind of a cel-shaded John Wick. Is the thing that like when your bullet runs out of guns, you can like throw your guns at people. So I'll be interested to see how that lands. Towerborn goes into early access this week. We've got Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, which I haven't been hearing great things about, but it's a racing game, so therefore I'll be interested. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection comes out. this week. And Caravan Sandwich, which is an indie cozy game that I can't remember exactly what it's about right now, but you're in a van, and I can't remember much else about it, but I do remember it caught my eye.
Collecting and some farming or some resource management aspects there. So yeah, a couple of games as the calendar starts to fill up here into September.
I'd like to redo my what's up next. I'll be playing that Capcom collection. Since it's coming out. I didn't realize it was coming out this week. I thought it was next month for some reason. So I'll add that to the playlist.
Added a new purchase to Tao's list for the week. Excellent. And Nate, thanks for glad you were able to listen. Thanks for giving a shout here at the end. Glad to always have you, Hero Down Under, everyone else who is listening as we were live, or if you're listening as it is up, either the video or the audio. We appreciate your engagement. We appreciate the conversation. Hopefully we gave you something to think about, or maybe some games to give a look at in your playlist for the coming week. So this has been episode 354 for the week of September 8th. Next week we are back, and it looks like all of us will be here. Tao Master, you are on the mic for leading us through whatever is coming down the pipe in terms of news this coming week and what else we've been playing. Thank you, gentlemen, for the good show. Thanks for everybody for the conversation. So for myself, DBQ Hams, GameLogIQ, and TowMaster99, this has been the Enough to Keep Going. So until next week, play the games you love those you play with, and be kind to yourself. Good night, everybody.